Just a quick little recording of a couple of the steps we did today in class. Remember, we went into the announcement section and we downloaded the geometric pattern. We downloaded the text file for the interior spread of our menu, and we downloaded the EPS file and opened it up in Illustrator. So a couple of things we did today in class. I'm going to go ahead and add a new text box for those of you that were still kind of filling in the text. And I'm going to write combos. Oh. So combos, right? Remember, we were Helvetica. So let's go Helvetica. We're going to do bold. I'm going to make it a lot bigger. Let's go like 30 point. All right. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So it says combos. So there it is. Remember, these were our headlines. Now remember, we opened up our texture image we downloaded, and we went over to our patterns and hit a plus symbol, and I'm just going to put Mexican menu pattern. We made a pattern out of it, so here it is now as a pattern, so we can close that. And we went into our text layer, which is right here, and double-clicked in the gray area and did a pattern overlay. And we changed that pattern overlay to our newly created swatch. We cranked it down to about 20% or so you can really see the pattern inside of there. We kept it normal. We kept it 100%. We did add a drop shadow. So let's do like 15 and 15. We did like 50%, I think. It was probably a little bit more than that, 45%. And we added a simple stroke, white stroke around our letters. And so we made our text headline look like this. And so now, I'm just gonna bump this down a little bit. Remember, we applied that feature to all of our categories. So I'm going to make a new text box. I'm going to drag it over here. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to type in lunch. Now remember, if I would have typed that new, I would have had to have checked stroke, checked pattern overlay, and checked drop shadow, and it would apply the same effect to that text. So we have veggies, so let me get rid of this. And then I'm going to duplicate combos. And I'm gonna, let's duplicate combos. I'm gonna bring it down. And I'm going to, let's make sure we lock this layer so it doesn't get in the way of selecting our, so let's lock that. So now I can select my text a little bit easier. And this was veggies. And then we can duplicate this layer. And this is supposed to be sides. But I need to now unlock this so I can get in here and remove the word sides. And so we created these custom categories, and when you zoom in, you can see the pattern, you can see the stroke, you can see the drop shadow. Now, remember, these are text boxes, so we just copied, so here it is right here. We just copied right out of our text file, which is this. We copied right out of our text file and pasted it into these text boxes that we created just by using the text tool and dragging and dropping a box. So just from a process standpoint, that's how we got to here. Now, the next step we did was we went in here into our EPS file that's in Illustrator. We deleted the background and we deleted the little text there, and we drew a selection box just over our taco and did Command C. And we went into Photoshop. Now remember, we made it a watermark. So let's go down to where our wood texture is, and we did Command V as a smart object. So here's our big taco image. And we centered it on our fold. So there's our fold right there. We hit return and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so busy. And remember, we did one of two things. We could change the opacity and crank this thing way down so you can barely see it in the background, or we can change the overlay. And I think I did like soft light, so you can just barely see it back there. A little bit different than opacity change because it gives it a little bit of a whitewash over it when you do that light effect. So I did that, and then we talked a little bit about you can also create rectangles to block things in. And so let's draw a box around this, which is right here. Now, remember the properties are up here. And so let's make it no stroke. I don't want a border around it. Let's make it a color of some kind. And so we can click on this little spectrum here and we can sample any color. So we could go with kind of that tealish color. Now, once we do that, a couple of things we can do, remember. We can grab this corner and pinch it in, and we went to like 60 points for rounded. And remember, over in the properties window on the right here is also the appearance. So you can change it up here, or you can change it over here. It affects the same way. And so there's our shape. Now remember, we can also change opacity of this shape here. So let's crank it down to like 30% or so. And so there it is. And then we can duplicate this rectangle. So we'll just duplicate it and watch how it overlaps. As it overlaps, you can kind of see the color. And so I'm going to drag this down. Oh, too far. Oh. Let's drag this thing down. Now, for the sake of time, I'll let you guys kind of make it one bigger box. So you see how it just bleeds off here. If we wanted to change the size of this box, let's pinch it in a little bit. So I'm going to do that and then nudge it down. All right, so there it is. So then let's duplicate this. And let's move it over here. And I'm going to do the same thing, kind of keep it off of the edges. Shrink this down a little bit. And I think I need to make the sides text. So let's find sides here. Combos, veggies, sides. So let's nudge this down a little bit with our arrow keys. Now remember, we took this now that we have our menu one, and I don't know if on my computer here we did. I'm going to do file save as, and I'm going to save this as menu 2 on my office computer. I don't have a menu 2 created just yet. And so I'm going to take all of these files on menu 2, all of these layers, and get rid of them. I'm going to get rid of all these so I can strip it back to what would have been menu 2 if I would have created it as part of our, so I'm going to hide that. So here is my menu 2. So let me reopen up menu 1. Now we set up each one of these layer elements that we wanted on both sides. We did duplicate layer and we copied it from menu 1 to menu 2. So you'll see it's at the top there now. And so I'm going to duplicate each one of these stripes. So let's right click or control click. Let's duplicate layer and let's move it over to menu 2. And so there's menu 2. We're going to get our wood texture. We're going to duplicate the layer. And we're going to move it over to menu 2. So remember, if it comes in above the stripes, we can reorganize our layers by putting it below the stripes. So we duplicated each one of our elements in here and got it into menu 2. And so let's make sure we have our stripes. We have our category, one text box, one background shape, and let's copy each one of these icons separately into our menu 2 template. And if you have that done for next class, we will be all set for laying out our interior spread. Good job today, guys.